Let's start with the football. I want to do Scotland first before I go into some other talking points about the weekend that seemed to kind of be constantly talking points, really. And I want to go into why and my thoughts on it. But let's start with Scotland because I want to just talk about the football. Rangers Celtic yesterday, Old Firm after Hearts get that 1-0 victory over Aberdeen. Huge win for Hearts. Just keep that going, that 1-0 train going. They're doing very, very well at that. A little feisty kind of end to the game there with McInnes, kind of putting his shoulder a little bit, walking past one of the Aberdeen players, and it kicks off a little bit at the end. And yeah, it's that time in the season when the emotions are running high now. The emotions are running high in these title races and relegation battles. So, class to see. But Rangers yesterday, for me, I thought that they, in the first half, were exceptional. I thought, especially in the first 10 minutes, they do exactly what you should do at home in a big game, in a derby game, in an Old Firm game, is they get right after you and they get the crowd behind them and they get themselves up for it. And yeah, the football they played, the moving the ball around, how they looked, it looked slick. It looked really, really good. I was very, very impressed. And then Chermiti scores that overhead kick, which honestly, for me, is definitely top five best overhead kicks I've seen in my time watching football. Honestly, it could potentially creep into a top three. I mean, I think you've got like Garnacho's, Cristiano Ronaldo scored one. God, Wayne Rooney's one as well, obviously. There's a couple others. You guys know what ones I mean, but it's in my top five. Potentially could sneak into a top three, but what's an overhead kick? And he's had a lot of criticism this season, but he's just seeming to kind of get into things going right now, especially when Rangers really need a striker and then someone to get goals to keep them going and try and win this title. So hell of an overhead kick. And like I say, I think that summed up the performance of Rangers in that first kind of early period. They then go ahead and they get the second. And I really, really did think this could be a good 3-4 nil gubbin come half time. Celtic just looked off the pace. I kind of couldn't work out if Rangers were really good or Celtic were just really bad. I think a little bit of both, to be honest. I'm not trying to like diss Rangers not playing well or anything. As I say, I think they were brilliant, but I don't think Celtic were good at all. And then second half, it's a game of two halves. Rangers started it off really, really well. Kind of first 3-4 minutes, it looked like they were going to get a third quite quickly. And then all of a sudden, Celtic found their footing. Martin O'Neill had made some subs. He changed the shape a little bit. And it just looked a little bit better. I still thought they looked quite blunt going forwards. I was thinking, okay, they've stepped up, but I don't see where they're going to get a goal. I thought Rangers would go and hit them up the other end for the third. But Tierney gets that and he gets the goal, and then it's 2-1, and nerves then set in, and it's a big game, and there's a lot riding on it. Celtic couldn't really afford to lose it. They would find themselves a little bit too far behind Hearts to kind of be in the discussion. I don't think it would be over, but I think that they would really be looking behind them, and I still think they are at Motherwell. So they needed to go ahead and get the second, and it made the game really stretched and really open, and they do go get the second with the penalty right at the very end. I mean, you got to feel sorry for a goalkeeper there. It's a great save from Jack Butland for the first one. He then saves the rebound, and there's nothing he can do about the third opportunity that Hatate gets to put it away. And then again, you could see both sides really felt as if they had to go on and win this game. And I think you've seen that in the final whistle, the frustrations of both teams and both sets of players. Obviously, it's a derby. It's got a lot of history behind it, so that adds to it as well. But I think you've seen that they both felt as if big opportunity missed, and Edinburgh and Hearts are the team that win from that. But it's just, you can see the pressure on both sides with, Hearts potentially coming in and breaking this. And I think everyone, probably bar the Hibs fans, want to see Hearts do it. Maybe there's some other fans that don't want to see Hearts do it. But I think everyone I think in life, people, I think we just like to see establishments broken. I think right now, I think we'd all like to see what's going on in our general life, politics and stuff, broken. I think it's not right. I think a lot of people are frustrated and pissed off. And I think when people, when you get someone rise up and challenge that and break that, yeah, it's huge. It really is huge. And I've been going on about this all season. And I think I even said it a lot last season too. It's about breaking a mental barrier first. It's breaking a mental barrier first, and it adds belief, and we've seen that this season. I know Rangers and Celtic haven't been as good. They're obviously not as good as they have been, but I think a big part of it is just other teams have belief that they can go to Ibrox, Parkhead, or they're playing them at home and take points against them. They're not kind of chalking it off and saying, right, It's all right if we get beat here. It's cool. We're focusing on the other games. So great league. Great league, so exciting, really, really good to watch. Everyone's tuning in. It's becoming, big kind of news everywhere across the world, and rightly so. And it will change and can change the trajectory of Scottish football. And I think if you look around Scottish football, I think sometimes things are just meant to be and timing's right. I think if you look at how Motherwell are playing, Hibs with their investment as well, like Falkirk coming up and the football they're playing. Scotland seems to have jumped quite far ahead in the last couple of seasons from where it was, and it's almost like all perfectly meshed with what Hearts are doing this season. And it's a great time to be involved in Scottish football, whether you're playing, coaching, doing online stuff, punditry, all that. It is a really, really good time, and it's better for everybody if two teams don't dominate. It's the same in like England. You don't want Man City winning the league all the time. You need it to, and you want it to constantly change, and it's hard to do that. But that's what makes a strong league. And that's what makes the league exciting. So very, very good. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, how is this gonna play out now? Hearts have got a relatively favourable run until the split. They'll have Shanklin, they'll have Devlin back. That'll be like new signings. I think Rangers, again, look like the team out of the two old firms that will push Hearts the closest. I really do think Celtic are looking over their shoulder at Motherwell. I think Motherwell could leapfrog them. I mean, the run and the form that they're on is absolutely exceptional, and fair play to them. The manager was at the game yesterday. So yeah, just let me know what you guys think in the comments with that. Let's move into England. And by the way, Scotland going first before England has been a big case a lot this season, just due to the football. Arsenal and Chelsea yesterday. Couldn't watch the game. I had to go to work. Started work at 4 o'clock, so I couldn't watch it. So seen the score, came home, watched the highlights. I've watched all the stuff on YouTube about it. Hence the reason I'm doing this a little bit later, because it's set-piece goals again from Arsenal, but at the end of the day, they've won, and that is all that matters. And before I go into this, Liverpool, who I support, have got the most set-piece goals since the new year, so they've obviously looked at that as well, and they've taken that on board, and that's helped with Liverpool's form too. And look, fair play to Arsenal, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day if they get over the line. History just remembers that you have won it. And there's a lot of rule changes and everything coming in that they announced over the weekend, which I'll do a separate video on about that. But I don't think anyone wants to see the game go that way. I don't think anyone wants to see the game going that way. And I'm not having a go at Arsenal for it. I think that the Premier League has become such a high level, and the stakes are so high, and the margin for winning is so minimal, that I think if they get over if they get over the line this season, Arsenal, how Arteta's looked at the last few years and where he's thought this is where we can go and win it is by doing, the small margins at set pieces. And fair enough, he's not wrong, I don't think, because we've seen him play that open, attractive attacking football and try and go and win the league a couple of years ago. And I think he looked at it and went, I don't think it's the best route to it. I think this is the best route. And you can't knock him for it. And you can play however you want to play. That's the great thing about football. It's all about debate. It's no right or wrong way. But there's a feeling in your gut, surely, as a football fan, and even as Arsenal fans. And again, I know you won't care if you get over the line, and that's absolutely correct, and you're rightly so, by any means necessarily, I think, especially at this point in the season. But we can't see, the league that I've watched and grown up on my whole life is this year, and the trend that it really has shifted to this season. And seasons can just be one-offs, don't get me wrong. And I think the rule changes that are coming in are going to make it different. But we don't want to see that, surely, right, guys? Like, let me know in the comments. Like, I don't think we do want to see that. It's fine to be good at set pieces and have that as part of your weaponry in your arsenal. But, I was thinking about comparing it to coaching at youth football. It was like when I used to play teams that genuinely would just, like, bash the ball up the pitch, right? And it would just cause a bit of chaos, and they would win, and you'd see them win, like, tournaments and everything. And I remember, we'd get a lot of parents saying, like, why don't we just do that? And it's not that, like, we would never do that. It wasn't, like, naive and arrogant just to be like, oh, pass it around the back and do all this kind of, like, that snobby type of football. I'm not like that. I'm all for, if your striker's in, play the ball over the top to him, absolutely. Alisson to Mo Salah, for example. I'm all for that. But my point was, in the long run at youth level, will catch up to those. Like, those kids aren't like, what are they doing? At some point they're going to get caught out when the kids get older and they get bigger and they can defend it. You can header and everything. It's not going to work, and they're not going to have any other tools in their arsenal to be able to deal with it. So if you can't beat them, join them. And I think everyone's kind of done that this season, and they've seen where the trend's gone, and some have hopped on it a lot quicker than others. And again, I think Liverpool have tried to stay out of the trend, and they've jumped on it, and I think it's it's kind of what's had to be done, because again, the margins are so small. If you miss out on Champions League football, Arne Slot probably loses his job, all the money, and Ange talked about that in the Stick to Football interview about fear. So I think that's why everyone's gone that way. But I don't know. It feels very. It does feel, it's cliche to say it, but it feels very NFL-y. It feels very like the game's broken down into small blocks. Like, how can we get to this point where we get this set piece here? And if we do, this is what we do. And if you get good at it, fair play. Fair play. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Arsenal fans, you won't give a shit, and rightly so. If you get over the line and you win the league, fair play to you. City put the pressure on you early in the day. Spurs losing to Fulham, they're in a lot of trouble. Like, they're really, really, really in a lot of trouble, and yeah, you can't keep flirting with it. I know it's only second season and they were miles off it last season, but you just can't. Like, it's gonna catch up with you at some point, and there's obviously something fundamentally wrong there, and they're in a bit of trouble, and it'll be interesting to see if they really, really do get kind of dragged into it over the course of the weekend. Michael Carrick keeps it going with Man United. I caught a little bit of that game before. Luke Sesko's kind of coming into it a little bit now. He's getting some big goals. He gets the start yesterday. He gets the 2-1. It's Bruno Fernandes all over everything again. I've always said, in terms of a quality of a football player, unbelievable. His delivery for the ball is absolutely fantastic. And, Man United, he's getting a little bit up there. And do you kind of build the future around him? But, they're sitting third, and Aston Villa have found themselves pulled back into the pack. And I think Villa will struggle to make the top four. I do think Liverpool and United will have too much for them, and I think they'll beat them. And I just think Chelsea are still just very much too inconsistent. And just with Liam Rosenier being new, and that buzz has kind of died off a little bit. It'll be interesting to see. I think they might finish fifth, but I think they'll be battling for Villa with fifth. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about that with regards to the kind of Champions League places. And last but not least, I will do a kind of full video on this, but I watched Match of the Day on Saturday night. We're talking about rule changes and VAR and what it's going to interfere in. The discussion around the game in the Premier League, again, massively, but you can see it in all the other leagues, is just constantly week to week. Like, VAR is completely taken over the conversation. It's completely taken over the game every week. There was a point yesterday where Celtic do get the penalty, right? But the Celtic attack, there's the header. You think Butland saved it, goes out for a corner, and Celtic took a quick throw in, and they were like in. I don't know who it is, beat someone 1v1, and they're in. And the ref blows the whistle for VAR. And I was sat there with Matthew, my brother, and he was like, if they don't get it, it's so shit, because Celtic were in there and they were on top and they had the momentum and they were going for that equaliser. And obviously they do get it. But if they don't get it, it was such a good point. And he was like, it's just the rhythm and the flow of the game, and how, and it's the same with the set pieces that we've just talked about. The game needs to be moving at a pace, and momentum is such a big part of football. This stop-starty stuff that VAR has taken over. And I've said this like for a while, like, why do we have a referee watch show where they can come on and showcase what they talk about? And they never really say anything other than what you know and think they're going to say. And it's like politicians, like, you know what they're going to say. And I just think that it's taken over the game so much, and it's become the game, and it shouldn't be the game. And watching Match of the Day, it's constantly talking about offsides and VAR and what they got wrong. And to add into the mix, it's all about like XG stats, and the conversation around the game is boring. The conversation now isn't about, moments of brilliance and magical goals, because they're constantly being paused and reviewed, and that's what the magic of the game is. And I think that, we talk about it a lot on this YouTube channel here, and I think it's a big discussion in football in general, but it's going. It's not quite gone, and I think we can still pull it back, but I don't know. I need to have a proper look at these kind of rule changes and have a think. And you never know how rule changes are going to go until they finally get implemented. Always give everything a chance. But my brief kind of skim read of it, my first thought was, God, it reminds me of the youth football tournaments in America where they just love to chuck in a bunch of rules, and you're like, but that's not football. It's not just getting the ball down, whistle goes, and we play the game. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about it. I know it's kind of like a big talking point. I hate harping on about it, but it was kind of something I felt quite strongly this weekend when I was watching Match of the Day. So that's it. We're straight back to it tomorrow. It's midweek games. It's a big week here now for the title races, and certainly in England, and for the Champions League places relegation. You know, Hearts get a little bit of a break. They're obviously not going to Dubai now with everything that's going on out there. Everybody be safe that's out there. And yeah, it is crunch time, as we say. It is crunch time. So like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this video. And yeah, as always, hope you have a good week. Hope you've started off your week well. And until the next one, have a good one, all right? Peace.